Okay, July 27th, 2022. Can you turn that down for a second? I want to read something.
Sure.
Okay, we're going to read about the Attorney General just through a quick Google search here in terms of material facts. Okay? What is the role of the Attorney General in Canada? The Chief Law Officer, the Attorney General, provides independent legal advice to the government. The Attorney General has a special role to play in advising Cabinet to ensure that the rule of law is maintained and that government actions are legally and constitutionally valid. What are the duties of the Attorney General? Check all the apply. The Attorney General's responsibilities include safeguarding Californians from harm and promoting community safety. Well, I would think that would apply to British Columbia, Canada. The Attorney General is supposed to prevent harm to the community and to provide a sense of safety. Okay? Preserving California's spectacular natural resource. Enforcing civil rights laws. We don't have civil rights laws in British Columbia, Canada, people. We have no civil rights, okay? We don't even have human rights here, okay? What do you think I've been fighting for all these years? Okay? And helping victims of identifying theft. I provided that information to the Attorney General's office. Bank fraud. Theft, mail fraud, mortgage-related fraud, illegal business practices, and other consumer crimes. Selling organs on the black market is a consumer crime. But they've made it so that you can't prove it, quote unquote, and because you can't prove it, quote unquote, somehow it doesn't exist. And then you become a fantastical if you suggest that it does. And they won't allow you to even have a chance to try and prove it because they don't have to, because all they have to do is deny you access to identifying your own loved ones. They can deny access to independent autopsies. They can deny access to exhuming bodies, right? Just saying, it's not just one thing that they deny you access to. It's a multiple of things. So anyway, I'm sitting here thinking, right? And I myself, I don't care what anybody else says around me at this point, what the Attorney General's office is doing is negligent. They're condoning the criminal activity within the banking system because they expect me to take on the bank myself, as if I'd get anywhere with that with no lawyer, considering what happened with Fraser Health Authority. They want me to go back and fight Fraser Health Authority with their dismissal following me, in terms of they don't agree with anything that I've said, but they, you know, Sonia 2 said go take it to Fraser Health because it's a health issue. Which is negligent, people, because it's the government who holds that portfolio through the health minister, and they're not monitoring their employees. Fraser Health Authority, sure, maybe cuts the checks to pay their employees, but it's the government who gives Fraser Health Authority the money to pay the employees that all fall under the government's budget. If you go on to their yearly budgets, like the government as a whole, they do their yearly budgets and then they post it online, right? They're the ones cutting the checks to all the different portfolios that are related to different ministries. So it's negligent on the Attorney General's part, and I would suspect the public solicitor Attorney General's part, because if they throw out through the Attorney General, they're going to throw it out from the public solicitor, the Public Safety Solicitor General. Okay, that one will be just automatically thrown out too, as they're feeding me to the wolves by saying, oh, CIBC Bank is still active, go take them to court, deal with them, and if you want to file another one, assuming that you haven't surpassed the time limitation of 1 year or 2 year, right? Because time is their weapon, I told you, people, right? So even if I was to write another one and take Sonia's advice, Sonia 2, not Sonia, but Sonia 2, okay? The clone of Sonia. If I was to take the advice of the clone of Sonia, who is now Sonia 2, right? By the time I got anything filed against Fraser Health Authority in relation to what they did to SHAMAY, they'll be, oh, well, your time of limitation is over. It doesn't matter what the last lawsuit was, because it's just a pattern. Yeah, and obviously you've got 4 judges throwing out time after time whatever it is that you got to say, because none of them want to take any kind of responsibility for the harm that's going on in our communities, people. It's not my job to expose the bank and investigate them. That's the government's job. The government's job is to oversee the banking system, to make sure that the banking system isn't exploiting the public. You don't take it to the head office of CIBC Bank and ask them to clean their own freaking chicken coop when there's just nothing in there but a bunch of freaking foxes and wolves and raccoons and, there's not even any chickens left. It's all predators in there. So how does it become a material fact where the government becomes negligent by passing the buck onto Fraser Health Authority, as it's literally staring them in the face in regards to the fraud, right? We never got to talk about all the different legislated acts, because they don't want to talk about the Guardianship Act, the Adult Guardianship Act, the Patient Property Act, the Consent and Inform Act, the Healthcare Act, the Community Relations Act, the Community Assisted Living Relations Act, or whatever. There's a whole bunch of them, right, that all intertwine with each other, that are supposed to put the brakes on so that what happened to Uncle John couldn't have happened. But you see, the government doesn't care if it happens, because they're throwing all their legislation in the garbage when it's convenient for them, right? As far as they're concerned, there is no legislation. They don't act on legislation. They act on a whim to hold the status quo for themselves. so that they don't have to be held to account when somebody like me comes with the legislation and says, well, under this act, it says these employees are not supposed to do this, but they did this, and if you go to this act, you'll see that they did it this way, right? Because it bounces from act to act to act, but ultimately it all kind of comes down to the same kind of rule in terms of what they're able to do and how they do it when it comes to committing people into mental institutions, when it comes to deeming them incapable of taking care of their business, when it comes, they didn't lock Uncle John up in a mental institution, people. They put him in a hammock, drugged him up, put him on the ferry, and when he woke up as they were coming in onto the other side, he started crashing. They rushed him to the emergency ward, and he almost in Victoria, the Victoria General Hospital, which is a different health authority. What, am I supposed to go sue Island Health Authority, Fraser Health Authority, and Island Health Authority, when they're all telling me that I didn't have any right to fight for Uncle John, even though on the 19th, the 20th of February, he told me to go get Paul, the lawyer, because he didn't want his sister taking him anywhere. He wanted to come home. Why isn't the Attorney General listening to this? I've been saying it for how many years, people? Why isn't the judge paying attention to these things? Why isn't the judge, I really do hope this judge is looking at that paperwork that I provided, where it specifically shows how the bank committed fraud to illegally hide me, people. They've never removed me with enduring or power of attorney. 2 powers of attorney. They only hid it so that they could bring in Eleanor's power of attorneys to carry on with their backroom deals behind Uncle John's back as he was drugged and sedated and held captive at the Victoria General Hospital, which is a different health authority to which the Attorney General office is an overseer of, because they are right in the Parliament buildings in regards to protecting the public. How do I put all that into material facts, people? Because I'm not going to sue Fraser Health Authority again over Uncle John, but I'm not going to drop the ball on Uncle John either, people. I am not. I'm going to hold the Attorney General's office to account. Okay? If this judge wants to toss it out because he doesn't want to be a shit disturber, you know, he doesn't want to draw attention to himself because he's coming close to retirement, because he's got $500,000 sitting in a bank account, or maybe $1 million sitting in a bank account, just ready and waiting to buy some organs when he or one of his family members need it, because, you know, he's been a judge for a long time. He was a lawyer before that, so he's sitting good, right? The only thing that might take him out might be, you know, his liver shuts down and he needs a new liver. So before he'll wait on a donation list, to which those individuals, the judge and Sonia too, ignored the fact that, right, I was willing to donate SHAMAY's organs, and I got played, and then when it came time to going into her medical files, which is a material fact, it says that I refused it. Why doesn't the Attorney General check into that, people? Because the Attorney General, Sonia too, right? She knows, people, that there's illegal organ harvesting going on in the province of British Columbia, Canada. Because it's too much money. And it provides a valuable service for the rich wigs that want to live just a little longer. You know, they don't care if they have to go for an operation 10 times in a row if it buys them 10 years or 15 years extra. Because they can afford to do it, because they're freaking crooks. Right? Anyway, I don't know. And like with SHAMAY, you know, they've killed SHAMAY all over again. This time it's them. Okay, it's not Julian this time. This time it's fucking Sonia too. Okay, I can't speak for what this judge is going to do, because I don't have a ruling yet, but just based on being reluctant to acknowledge that people commit crimes. That people commit crimes. And a large amount of those crimes are coming in from the many immigrants that come into this country that benefit from taking old people out of their houses and locking them up into care homes. Because once those old people are out of their houses, those houses become available for those immigrants that want them. That's the first thing, right? And then, of course, the assets get sold and divvied up. Sometimes they're divvied up fairly, and sometimes they're not. But as far as that judge is concerned, everybody gets a fair shot in the healthcare system because they're those Puritans. How do you reach a mindset like that, people, that doesn't need to be reached because he's sitting high on his, you know, whatever with his, right? And, you know, like he's just counting his days for retirement, right? And then he doesn't ever have to look back in terms of the harm and injury that perhaps he created for other people while he sat in a position of power, even though he'll tell you that he has no power, right? And that will be his excuse for not doing his job in terms of calling an investigation, or at least if he can't do it, then make the government do it by saying, no, we're not going to throw this out. We're going to dig a little deeper, and the Attorney General's office needs to do the digging because they're the ones with the resources, the tools, and the workforce to do it. If they can commit crimes, they can help to solve crime at the direction of a judge. But probably won't, people, because Sonia too said, well, time of limitation, time is the weapon, right? You know, just kick it out, and next time she comes back, whether she sues Fraser Health Authority or whether she sues General Island, the Island Health Authority in terms of the Victoria General Hospital, or whether she comes back and files another one for gross negligence against the Attorney General office, okay? They'll be like, oh, well, it's too late now. Too many years have gone by. It was already thrown out. And that will be number 5. So how can we consider these people to be legitimate? Right? How can we consider them to be legitimate? If the evidence is staring you in the face that there's bank fraud in there, right? Suspicious activity, mail fraud, right? People literally disappearing, and then a progression of death and injury after that individual leaves, not to mention the death and injury. Well, the injury, there was no death when the stuff happened to Sierra, when she was illegally kicked out of the house, and when I was illegally cut off welfare. There was no death yet. But it came. Sooner or later it came, right? 5 people injured in my house out of 8. You do the math, people. With 3 of those people dead already. 3 are already dead. With 1 permanently injured with life, with a life expectancy of only 45 years. Cut in half. His life expectancy has been cut in half. And that is a direct result of gang stalking over a period of years, people, through government workers, mainly. And just the politics around what they get from it, how they sustain themselves from it. You know, with this open file with MCFD, you know, that's guaranteed money in the bank. Right? When they come to do their budget, oh, Judy Chorney's on the file, so, you know, we need X amount of dollars to sustain our office. Where does it come from? It doesn't come from the Ministry of Children and Family Development, head office in the Parliament buildings. It comes from the freaking government budget in general. And then it's just broken up into it's like paying a hydro bill. You got your hydro, you got your gas, you know, you got your telephone, right? But it all is all under one roof, and it comes from one freaking bank, like from one wallet. You take out your wallet, you pay a little here, you pay a little there, you pay a little here. But if the wallet goes dry, if the government goes dry, none of those ministries would get money. None of those workers would get paid. If it wasn't for the Attorney General's office and the rest of those MLAs that hold those portfolios, all those workers in Fraser Health Authority would get nothing. Nothing. They'd be working for nothing. They all be broke. So she can't tell me to go take it back to Fraser Health Authority when it's sitting in Sonia 2's face, right up in your face. But they don't care. There was 2,400 deaths last year in 2021, people directly related to fentanyl. With a lot of those deaths, people being hot-capped, murdered people, literally murdered, as the government running around saying they did it to themselves because they don't want to go seek help, and they're all sitting in the freaking closet doing drugs, not talking to anybody about it because they're ashamed. Right? But we're going to open up some more programs to keep them safe. But they don't want to do anything about murder. They don't want to do anything about holding cops accountable to investigating things correctly so that murderers can go to jail. To clean up the streets. Because the murder brings the bodies, people. To which the judge just wants to think that that's, you know, we live in the 1800s. And even then there was body snatchers. Even in the 1800s and 1500s, there were body snatchers. What makes them think there's not body snatchers today with the type of technology, with the transhumanism that they want to bring in now? Okay? And bringing in some global human experiment that's basically wiping us out little by little as our attorney generals and those kind of individuals are allowing it to happen by, no, we're not responsible for anything. We're not responsible for anything. I don't even know why I get paid other than to say we're not responsible for anything. We're not here to protect the public. We're not here to listen. We're not here to investigate, but we get paid to do, but we get paid to have a title. We get paid to have a title of an attorney general, but we don't do shit. And if we do, it's just to prop up the criminal activity. As we speak with forked tongue and say it doesn't exist. So I'm like, they got me going like this. Exactly where they want me. This is where I've been all these years until the next hit. Until the next hit, people. Okay, until they pluck out another one for whatever freaking reason, however they're going to pluck them out, they're going to pluck them out. They're either going to murder them, get them murdered, have them murdered and die, and start this, rob them of their organs, right? Call you freaking crazy because you caught them in the act, literally on camera or whatever, right? But they won't look at the evidence. They won't even speculate to try and, right? Because they know, right? And, you know, all they have to know, it didn't happen. But as they're saying it didn't happen, they're plotting who they're going to get next. Okay? First, me. Cut her off of welfare with 5 dependent kids. Keep her off of welfare. Deny her access to welfare. Have her look after a little girl, right? Without paying her, right? And then Sierra, right? Then Andre, then John, then Amari, then SHAMAY, and they're still gang stalking me. Setting me up just for the big kill. They're just sniping. That paramedic that came to my house was just a snipe, people. That's where they come in and just snipe at you. Right? You don't think that's not going to happen again? Just because, right? They're going in for who? Is it going to be Andre? Is it going to be me? Is it going to be Marcane? Is it going to be Amari? Is it going to be Tisha? Who are they going to take out next? And then say, well, we have nothing to do with that. That's your business. We're the Attorney General's office, and we don't care if your family's safe or not. Nope. If you got a problem with the healthcare system, take it up with the healthcare system, you know, even though we're the ones that pay them. Even though we're the ones that pay the employees and are there to make sure that the employees are ethical and all this, you know, it's like a big fucking circle, people. It's just a big boo-boo circle. That's all it is. Like, people, I don't want to say people deserve what they get when it's going to come their turn. Because I can't say I deserve what I got, because I got it. At least I fight back for my family. Okay, right? And I will find a way to keep fighting people. One way or another, SHAMAY is not going to die in vain. Sonia too can take it up and stick it up, you know where, whatever she's got to say. Because as far as I'm concerned, the girl is fake. That person, that individual, whatever she was, she's fake. Okay, she doesn't even qualify to be sitting in the Attorney General's office because she represents absolutely no justice. Okay, she's like a person running around with a broom and a dustpan trying to clean up the government's garbage with their, dust balls. And she's looking for a place to hide it, right? Go take it to Fraser Health, right? Hide it, and right? Let them deal with it. No, I already dealt with them. Clearly you could see there's a problem, right? I even gave you the official paperwork, and clearly, right, in terms of, well, go take it to CIBC Bank. No, how about you investigate CIBC Bank? That's your job. And while you're doing it, investigate Fraser Health Authority. But you see, that's the thing though, people. They're running around, these individuals like this are stealing all kinds of old people's assets. All kinds. Because it frees up the houses. Elderly goes to the hospital, they never get released. I told you, when John was in that temporary care ward, there was all kinds of old white people. Old white people. Old white people. Old white people. Little old white ladies. Little old white men that wanted to go home, but weren't allowed to go home because the immigrant workforce was telling them they weren't going home and that they had to sell their houses. Because they were going into the government subsidized, well, I wouldn't even consider it subsidized, old folks' homes, because as soon as their houses were sold, they were paying 70% of their incomes were going towards wherever they were being shipped off to, in terms of they had to pay in order to live in those old folks' homes after they were told that they had to sell their houses so that some immigrant could buy the land and either move in 10 at a time and do whatever they do, or the property developer could buy it up, tear it down, and make way for the next generation of immigrants in terms of housing them before they'd house families like mine, as the government wants to ignore it. As the government wants to ignore it. When the casualties come in from around that. SHAMAY was a casualty, Sierra was a casualty, Uncle John was a casualty, Amari was a casualty, Andre was a casualty, the rest of my family were all casualties. So why the hell do we have an Attorney General department anyway? What good are they when they just offload as they have the evidence staring them in the face and are too weak, literally weak, to investigate the crimes that were being presented to them? And then tell you, like I said, go back to Fraser Health Authority, file another lawsuit there, but blah, 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 ramble, and then throw in, but, there's that statute of limitation, 1 year or 2 year. They didn't write that on the benefit of the public. They wrote that on the benefit of themselves because time is their weapon. Okay? I've been saying it for years. They try and bankrupt your house after they rob you, hurt you, set you up to be harvested, whether you can prove it or not. Many people are being harvested illegally, more so with this economy. 2,400 people died in 2021 as a result of fentanyl. Okay? And not one single individual was murdered as far as the government is concerned. It just shows you how shallow Sonia 2 and her department really is. Shallow, as in hollow. Inside, like a hollow log with no substance. And she's another one banking money to buy organs on the black market at a later date when she and her Puritan family need them. Because otherwise, why would she condone it in terms of nefarious activities and criminal activity and that kind of, why else? She gets something from it. Maybe she's not getting a paycheck when these organs are being sold, but she gets to know in the back of her mind if she needs one, all she has to do is put in an order and they'll find a match for her and they'll make sure those organs become available because they're targeting our kids in the high school with blood donations. And they're making sure that the kids don't get to grow up and be what they want to be unless, of course, they fit in with this particular ethnic heritage that is taking control of the province because of the wealth that they have accumulated as they exploit the most vulnerable in the province before, right? You know the cycle. That's the cycle, people. Only Punjabis can be doctors, lawyers, and teachers. SHAMAY couldn't be a nurse, couldn't be a doctor, couldn't be a lawyer, or couldn't be a teacher because she didn't fit the freaking status quo when it came to the requirements, okay? In terms of who is allowed to be a doctor or nurse or a teacher, and that's through the public school system. Don't keep in mind that's the public school system. I don't know about the private. I would suspect kids that go, you know, white kids, black kids, those kids, if they go through the private sector, they probably have a better chance of being successful. But if they're coming up through the public school system, forget it, because the public union sector has already partnered up with organized religion. And the Punjabis are organized religion. It was a Punjabi who illegally harvested SHAMAY's organs, sat up there and lied to my family for 9 days straight saying that she was alive. Well, I'm sorry, till the 16th. And then, like I said, they left her body on the bed for another 3 more days, dead as a doornail. What did they do? They released her on the 16th because technically they finally, because she was decomposing, people. They couldn't hide it. They couldn't hide that she was decomposing. Something that the judge doesn't want to face. So they dubbed her dead, brain dead. And then they were rushing fast to turn off their machine based on their brain dead diagnoses, as they released her on the 16th because of that diagnosis, but kept her on the machine because everyone was crying to keep her on. And they're like, whoa, hold on a minute, it's going to get ugly, you need to turn it off. Finally, they were putting on a whole lot of pressure by the 19th to turn off their machine because she was decomposing, people, something that the judge doesn't want to look at and face, and would rather live in some fantasy land saying no, that the hospital system would never do that. And therefore, because they would never do it, it didn't happen. That is not a fair judgment. As the Attorney General is saying, well, that's just too bad. That's just too bad. Deal with it. What you got to say is insignificant. It doesn't matter who it's about. And if you really want to go back and do something, take it up with Fraser Health Authority, but be aware that you only had 2 years to do it, and it's past that date now. Time is their weapon. No, I'll come back to the Attorney General's office and I'll file another one against them for gross negligence. for being an impotent freaking ministry that can't produce any kind of results because it's a self-serving entity that is like purports itself to serve the public when in fact it's protecting criminal activity. And I will look for those material facts now that I'm starting to understand more what that means. And even then, I will still come in with, SHAMAY was illegally embalmed. What you gonna do about it? I don't care how many times they want to call me fantastical. I don't care if it takes me another 5 years, assuming that I'm alive, to file another lawsuit against the Attorney General office with Sonia too still sitting there doing nothing. Getting paid, banking money for the day when she can buy organs because she does nothing. She gets paid for nothing. Okay? Outside of to ensure that she gets to buy organs when she needs them, because that will be her reward for keeping with the status quo. Other than that, this is what that individual does. Okay? And I'm going to look around and figure out how I can take the government to a different kind of court, or take the Supreme Court to a different kind of court, and take it to a whole new level. I don't know if I'll ever be able to find that, or what. Time is their weapon. Still no referral. Isn't that interesting? They only wish SHAMAY died in vain. That's what they wish for. Doesn't matter what the government is. Doesn't matter if it's the BC Liberal government or the New Democratic Party. They're all the same with their bulging neck, right? Remember that on Christmas Eve with Bonnie Henry? That rolling something inside her neck that produced itself out? Because they're infected with something? Just remember, you're not dealing with normal human beings here. Clearly. Anyway. I'm not suing Fraser Health again. I would sue the Attorney General's office before I would ever, ever, ever sue Fraser Health again. Mm-hmm. And when I file next time, well, I'll have SHAMAY's stuff put together to the best of my ability. And I will include Uncle John's stuff, too, if it hasn't been dealt with by then. And whatever else I accumulate along the way. Because I'm not just going to bend over and take it, people. Mm-mm. And if other people just want to be blind to it and pretend like whatever they want to pretend when it happens to them, then in that situation, they deserve it. They deserve what they get. I asked somebody that's Punjabi, I said, you know, like, don't you guys ever stop to think about with the organs being harvested from, like from your people, right? Like, who are dying from, first of all, I asked how many people are dying from fentanyl within the Punjabi community. That individual said, well, just a few. Not, you know, here and there. Mostly gang-related. That's what she said. I said, oh, okay. Well, like, are you concerned about illegal organ harvesting? No, never thought about it. Are you concerned that they got murdered with fentanyl? No, never thought about it. In essence, they basically got what they deserved because they were, quote-unquote, either in a gang or they were doing drugs, so therefore they kind of deserve what they got. So the Punjabis just move on and don't think any further or deeper. They don't question it. They just accept it. Yes, right? They just accept it. Well, I don't accept it. When I had that dream with SHAMAY, she was under a hospital blanket, people. She was under a blanket. Just like they had her in the hospital. But she was dead. The point is, she was under a hospital blanket. Who's responsible for the hospital? The government is responsible for the hospital, not Fraser Health Authority. It's the government that provides the funding for the hospital to operate. Fraser Health Authority is just the mediator to pass the paychecks around. And clearly, they're incapable of monitoring their employees. And that's why it goes back to the Attorney General's office, the Public Solicitor and Safety General, the Public Safety and Solicitor General and their office. It's not the Health Minister, it's not MCFD, it's not the Educational Minister, it's not the Community Relations Minister, you know, it's right, it's the Justice, it's the people who run the justice. Because we're dealing with crime.